He's an amazing father. This was a big mistake, and I think that this doesn't represent him. No one understands how great of a tragedy this is more than myself, my remaining two daughters, and Christopher.
A heartbreaking moment. A dad hangs his head in grief as his wife begs a judge to release him.
You guys, grab a tissue box because this one is gonna be tough. Sadly, fatal choices don't have a rewind button attached to them. We don't get do-overs, and we can't undo what's been done. I felt a multitude of emotions in studying the case of Parker Scholtes. She was just 2 years old, strapped in her little car seat, as she was not left but forgotten by her own father, 37-year-old Christopher Scholtes. It is unbelievable how often I hear of this particular scenario happening where parents leave their children in a car or simply forgetting to take their children out of the car. Parents often take one opportunity, as that's all it takes, to walk away, do something, and then that something then leads to a longer stretch of time for more somethings to be happening. And before too long, the child all along had been left in the car and dies.
Charges after a child's hot car death. They say 36-year-old Ashley Stallings left her 8-year-old daughter inside her car while Stallings was working at the Amazon distribution center on 8000 Tuckasegee Road.
A Texas family is in mourning after police say a mother left her young son unattended inside a car in the driveway of their Houston home as temperatures approached 100 degrees. Investigators say the mom was rushing to prepare a birthday party for her daughter and accidentally left her 5-year-old behind.
The death of an 8-week-old infant who went into cardiac arrest after being left in a hot vehicle in Ocean County, New Jersey.
The infant's father is now facing charges.
Christopher, who was married to his wife Erica, was the father of 3 beautiful kids, and on this day his wife, an anesthesiologist, was at work, and we know that Parker had been in Christopher's care. Security footage picked up Christopher walking inside his home at 12:53 p.m. after running his errands. And as most young kids do, his baby girl Parker had fallen asleep on the drive home. So Christopher decided that he was going to let Parker just rest. He was going to let her finish her nap in the car, and the other 2 children, ages 5 and 9, had already arrived that Friday afternoon before their father came home with the car and Parker. Now this is in Arizona, so I imagine that he probably had AC running in his own house for himself and the other children. In leaving Parker to be out in the vehicle, he kept the AC going while she finished her nap and he went on into the house. One thing ended up leading to another, and he pushed what he had done with Parker in the back of his mind. And at some point he decided he was gonna sit on the couch and he was going to fire up a game and he was gonna take a few moments to relax. 3 hours and some minutes later, his wife Erica pulls into the driveway. She's like, "Hey honey, how are you? What's good? Tell me about your day. By the way, where's Parker?" Christopher remembers that she's napping, so he's like, "Oh, he goes into her room and she is not in there napping." He's like, "What?" So he ends up going all over the house. He's like, "Where is she?" He's getting that kind of panicky feeling like she's here somewhere. She was just napping. Reality sets in. That's right. Parker was napping in the car. It was 109 degrees outside of a car that day in the Arizona heat. At 4:16 p.m., a 911 call from the victim's family reported her lifeless inside a vehicle parked in the driveway of the family's home. Erica did CPR the entire time until an ambulance arrived, but it was too late. When the ambulance arrived, Parker had still been in her booster seat, and the sun in the car had been directly on her. She was quickly taken to the same hospital that her mother worked at, and at 4:58 p.m. that day, Parker was declared dead.
So what you die from hyperthermia or heat stroke. In babies especially, they don't adjust to heat as well as adults, so their bodies actually heat up about 3 to 5 times faster than an adult, so they're even more exquisitely sensitive to heat changes. So what happens is initially you begin sweating, your blood vessels dilate, or vasodilation, as the blood is kind of pumped more to your skin surface to try and cool your body off. As you become hotter and hotter, you're sweating more, you're shunting more of your blood to your skin surface, so you have less blood circulating throughout your body. And then eventually this results in your heart beating faster, you start becoming lightheaded, you start vomiting, becoming dizzy, and then eventually you stop sweating because you have no more fluid left, and then your body goes into organ failure, your heart and kidneys shut down, and you die.
During the investigation, many terrible truths were revealed about this family dynamic. For one, Christopher said that he arrived home at 2:30 p.m. that day, but it was surveillance footage from a neighbor's that picked up the true time that he arrived home. So Christopher not only didn't arrive at 2:30 p.m. that day, he had arrived home before it even hit 1 o'clock. Try 12:53 p.m. So to even declare that he had been home an hour and a half later is so not right and very unfair to Parker. However, the car was on when he did come home, and it said that it had 30 minutes before it would automatically shut off. So the AC had been running, and then there was that very small amount of cooling period where when the car did shut off and he had forgotten and he was in the house and she started heating up, well, the AC would have been, kind of still in the car. So there was a little bit of spare time. But you can bet that by 2:30 p.m., it definitely had been boiling in that car. And that's when he said, oh, that's when I came home. But that was not true. Then during the investigation, the 5-year-old and 9-year-old siblings of Parker were interviewed by authorities, and it was made known that this was a bad habit that Christopher had, that the children actually told the truth to authorities, and they said, yeah, no, this is kind of what Dad does. Dad often leaves us in the car and he unloads the groceries or, undoes what he was doing for his errands or whatever, and then he goes and he sits on his video game. So this is not a first offense. Text exchanges with his wife, Erica, also revealed the truth of his deadly habit. I told you to stop leaving them in the car. How many times have I told you? We've lost her. She was perfect, Erica told her husband in a text. His response, babe, our family. How could I do this? I killed our baby. This can't be real. He was later booked into an adult detention center where he appeared virtually for his arraignment that night. And this just wrecked me. Just seeing his wife plead for him to get out on bond so he could come home and they could bury their daughter together before he's going to get put away. You could just see this guy rocking in agony back and forth over what he did.
A heartbreaking moment. A dad hangs his head in grief as his wife begs a judge to release him.
This was a big mistake, and I think that this doesn't represent him. No one understands how great of a tragedy this is more than myself, my remaining 2 daughters, and Christopher.
The conditions for him to make bond, a $25,000 bond, was to stay away from schools, alcohol, illegal drugs, and any firearms. He is also not to be left alone with his children, unsupervised. His preliminary hearing is set for August. At this time, Erica has had to take an extended amount of time off work so she can be there to take care of the kids and, I guess, prepare for what's next as they grieve losing Parker. There are so many different opinions about this case and a lot of judgment, a lot of anger. Rightfully so, I understand. It wasn't fair what happened to Parker, and everybody's just absolutely floored and pissed at the reasoning of why Parker is no longer with us. They're like, video games, dude, really? You had a responsibility. However, I'm going to say something that I feel in my heart a lot of people are probably not willing to say. This could happen to anyone. Not likely in this particular scenario, or maybe in this particular circumstance. But overall, the times that we live in are a very fast-paced, distracting times in general. Like, we manage jobs, most of us have social media, a lot of us check our phones a lot, turn our heads for 1 second and then turn it back and something's happened. Prioritizing our families needs to be pushed first on the list. Like, there should be nothing between us and our families on a list of priorities. Not ever. Erica was right. Stop procrastinating our children's needs for other things, because the price could quite literally cost us everything. Today's case was specifically chosen in honor of protecting families all over the world and bringing more awareness to the negligence that is happening between parents and kids or within marriages where tragedies occur. Our families are our hearts, our responsibilities, our priorities. We need to get our priorities straight. Let me know your thoughts on this case. How do you feel about this father, Christopher? Do you have a heart for what's happened? Do you think if something like this happened in your family that you could forgive? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Oh my goodness, I don't have any other request for you today other than to kiss your spouse and hug your children. And thank you so much for tuning in. Be blessed, loved ones. I'm Chelsea J.